Yeah.
It's free. I wanted to tell Tony or somebody, if anyone comes in, I think that door gets stuck. The door gets stuck if you'll. Not too loud. Turn it down. Okay. The door gets stuck, honey, if you'll crack it. Okay. Yep. This is probably. Sorry about that. Life happens. But I am so glad you're all here today with us. Some people and myself was wondering, where's all the people here? You know, we used to be packed out, bringing the chairs, and we had another 100 chairs in here, especially on the holidays. But I think what's happening for a lot of us, we look at, just talking as I always do, we look at that resurrection where we're raised in a Christian Bible Belt. A lot of us, that's where we come from. And we start searching when that heart starts longing for more and wanting to go deeper and deeper into that spiritual aspect of who we are. We're spirit and we're human and divine. That's what Jesus was, and that's what he came teaching us. But it's so easy to sit back and let somebody else do it for you, or believe somebody else does it for you. Now that might not feel good to the Christian walk, but I'm not going against it at all. Unity, the school I went to was called Unity Church, or Unity of Christianity. And so I have definitely a base of the old-time religion in me. But coming to a place as a little girl of recognizing there's so much more. We go to the cross, but yet that's our walk too, to go to the cross, to come in human form. So Jesus came to show us the way, as W.T. was saying. The way is what he did. And the way to what? To be free, to overcome. And that last enemy is what? What did he say? That last enemy that we'll overcome, will destroy. Death. Oh my gosh. How can you overcome death? Well, guess what? He showed us how to overcome death. And yes, as you're taking this walk, you come to that place that you begin to possibly wake up to maybe reincarnation might be real. Any of you ever thought about reincarnation, that it might be real? The soul never dies, is what we've been taught. But how do we get from that low level of consciousness that we've all sank into somewhere along the line, probably every lifetime we've ever been here? Because what? There's the tempter. Remember, Jesus was baptized, the Holy Spirit was there, God was speaking, saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." God is pleased with us. We're his children. But yet he gave us a great gift. He gave us that gift of choice. We're not puppets. You can choose anything you want to do and experience it. But what price are we paying? We could own the whole world. And that self, that ego self, that part of us in us would never be satisfied if we just lived at that natural level. But he went all the way, I believe, from Adam's incarnation. You'll see him to me in Joseph's incarnation, looks just like the crucifixion. You know, having it all, living in the Father's house, being the one that was truly loved by his Father. Even though he was the youngest one, he's the one that the Father gave that coat of many colors. And that's our auric field, I do believe. But he was sold into slavery because his brothers were so jealous of him. And in that, he was sold into slavery. That would be worse than death. But yet, he went into slavery, Joseph did. Then he became aware of the man that had purchased him. And so he let him run his household. He trusted him. He rose up to that. He was his right-hand man. And then when he's away, his wife accuses him of, there's no little kids here, of trying to rape her. Because he wouldn't give in to her. She said that's what he did, and her husband threw him in prison. He was there for so long, and then people noticed what the head person was seeing, how gifted he was, and he gave him charge of the prison. Then from there, two of the prisoners had dreams that they'd been thrown in the prison because of something they didn't do or did do, while they were working for the king or the pharaoh. And so he told them what it meant and that they'd be restored and one would die and the other wouldn't. But anyway, he told them truth from his heart, from that intuitive side of self that was expanding. And so there, they didn't remember it until all this, the king began to have, or the pharaoh began to have dreams. So he was called forth. So then he was resurrected again into a high place, standing right beside of the ruler of Egypt. And then he was there, he recognized, because God was preparing him to save up food for 7 years. And then it would save multitudes of people. So his brothers even came to him. And what did he have to do? He forgave them. He forgave them. So it's the same type story of what Jesus was doing. But it's a process that each individual, human being, the soul goes through until that day, like Jesus, he gained his mastership totally. Yes, he was a spark of divinity. He remembered in that form of Jesus. He remembered. But yet, he went to that cross. He got everyone still tells that story. But yet, we stay so much in the mind. It's time to be resurrected into spirit and allow the spiritual understanding. Somebody could really step forward and teach every one of us or tell every one of us exactly what the process is. We can write it down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can read it over. We can study it. But guess what? It will only be words. It would only be words is what I'm feeling. Jesus said, the word killeth, but the spirit in the words, the spirit makes you alive. So what in the world am I talking about? Until we come to the place that the heart can hear it, that you can hear and experience, that I can hear and experience. We haven't arrived at that place. The multitudes of people are right there at that place right now. That's why it is so dark right now, because all the old stuff is coming up and coming to light, not only in that outer world, but it's your inner world are beginning to see your own self. So what are we going to do about it? When we see some hate in us, when we see jealousy, when we see anger, when we see judgment, what do we do with it? Here lately we express it. But we have to let it out and allow that light to keep going until that light begins to lift us to that place in consciousness that we're going to the same place Jesus did, folks. We're going in the tomb of our own consciousness. That place where the stone was rolled in front of us. But we got to step on my shoulder. We've been there for a long time in the tomb. But we've placed stones in front of our heart because I can't accept you. I can't accept that philosophy or something else. It's time to let love roll away that stone. Not a carnal love, but that divine love, that God love within us, that doesn't judge, doesn't condemn. But how can we not? Look at what's going on. How can we not? When we get to that place, that peace that goes beyond all understanding begins to come in your heart. Have you ever lost someone that you felt like you could not live without? And then something comes over you, and there's a deep, deep, settled peace in your heart. It doesn't make sense, but that peace can come. That peace that goes beyond all understanding. And that's where we're stepping into right now. That no matter what's going on in our lives or in our world, we can step in that peace that goes beyond all understanding. Because we let go. Something in us is lifting us to a higher vibration of understanding, where we recognize we're more than this flesh. And whomever we released is more than this flesh. We never die. We never die. But there's a process, and Jesus came to show us that process. So he died to this outer world, totally. Had no attachment to it. But even when he was on that cross, or in that garden, there was things that came up for him, that loneliness. All had forsaken him. He was all alone, and even on the cross, Father, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? That human side of his self was questioning. We question so often when we're going through the valley of the shadow. It's a shadow of death. It's not a real death. We're going through any obstacle. We feel alone and hurt. Can't get answers. But God is going with us through those difficult places. Until we finally come to that place where we let go. And we say, forgive them. Forgive anything that's ever happened to me, because our resentments, our hates, our bitterness, our judgments are all lie within us of unforgiveness. That's why they're friction. I don't forgive that people. I don't forgive that. I don't forgive this. It may have happened in a zillion lifetimes back, but I don't forgive them. I bring it forward. And so now I don't want to be with people. I don't want to be with that person or this kind of people or this kind of people. What kind of people? We're all the same people. Are we not? Like roses, flowers. They're flowers, different colors. We all came from that same source. So Jesus came to that place. And he was ready for that last incarnation. That last one in human form. And so, as he entered into that space, he was going on different frequencies or different levels of awareness, or going back to source. The ultimate going back to source is the uniting with it, becoming one with the Creator itself, where you know all there is to know. And when he met Mary, remember, Deb's going to sing something for us. Arise, my love. I haven't done it in a while, I hope. But it really seems to relate. I put out to read in John, I believe. But if you'll take a look at Matthew, it talks about the women coming to the tomb that day. Some of it talks about just Mary Magdalene coming. Others, Mary and some others came with her. And they thought maybe they could roll the stone away. They needed some people, somebody to help them, because they wanted to anoint him with herbs and bless his body as he has left this world. But they didn't remember that he said, on the third day I'll arise again. But Mary goes there, and the stone has already been rolled away. Maybe the other women, but the stone is rolled away. It was like lightning from heaven. It says the stone rolled away. There was earthquakes, there was thunder, all these things happened. And then even before that, the dead in Christ rose, or those people that believed it was in a higher state of consciousness that was ready at a place to resurrect. You can see them walking around, their graves had opened. What? I thought it was only Jesus that rose that day. I thought it was maybe the day before. What happened when that veil was rent in the temple? When he gave up and released from the body? It said that in the temple where only the Holy of the Holies, where only the high priest could go behind, and we look at Jesus as that high priest. He's the only one that can really speak to God. Have we not walked that walk? Most of us somewhere along, we go through Jesus to get to God. That veil split to say, no, it's finished. You have the right to be joined with God as good as I or anybody else, as much as Jesus Christ did, because that was his teaching. Be one with the source, as I am one with the source, he said. So that when it split, it even opened the graves. What's that opening the graves? It opens the heart, too, for us. Where when we get to that place of understanding, it is the Spirit that begins to come forth. It's the light that comes forth. That's what Jesus said, you are the light of the world. You're here in this dark time. Out of the darkness came the light, and the darkness knew it not. But you know what? The material plane, is all we see. And it's made out of matter that seems solid, but it's not really. Everything here is light. But we see it on this dimension. But there are higher dimensions we can't see. And we're only a spark of that. The rest is the darkness where everything comes forth from. That doesn't make it good or even. That's just yin and yang. That's just terminology. But we're beginning to understand this, whether you understand it by comprehending it on the level where you can read a book and know it at some level, or intuitively that light breaks forth and all of a sudden you have a knowingness from your very spirit. It's happening in your lifetime, each of you. In your lifetime, you're seeing this right now. Transformation taking place. So when Mary was there and she was upset because, where's my Lord? Where's my master? Where's Jesus? Where's he at? She saw two men, and others did, in that tomb. And they said, why do you seek the living among the dead? He's not here. And then Mary goes back to tell some disciples in one of the stories, and they began to come back, and he told them he'd meet them later in one of the chapters. But then, and I think it's Matthew, where she was out and she was crying. Honey, this door's shut. Okay. And she was crying. And she turned and Jesus was there. He said, woman, why are you crying? She said, they've taken my Lord and I know not where he's at. They've taken him and I know not where he's at. She turned around and looked at him and said, they've taken him and I don't know where he's at. She looked at Jesus, the resurrected Christ. But when he said, Mary, Rabboni, my master. Oh, she recognized his voice. She recognized him then. And she runs over and falls down and wants to hang on to his legs and kiss his feet. I know she was just overjoyed. She recognized there he was, alive and well. He lives. He lives. Oh, what joy that was. And he said, don't touch me. I have not yet ascended to my Father and your Father. My God, your God. What did he mean by that? For years I've often thought that she couldn't touch him because here she was. She had so much emotion that he could be maybe pulled back down into that level of being here on earth and taking on the emotions that we all have. But it was so much more than that. He looked different to her because he had not yet ascended into the highest level there was, which taking a human body of form, going into that light, remember, if you've ever seen the shroud, that there's been lots and lots of research done on it, the shroud that was supposed to be around and on Jesus, that it's like, they're saying it's like a brilliant light just surged real fast, but it didn't. It leaves the face and everything. Now they can actually have a picture of what he looked like from that with all the instruments we have today. But it's real. It's verified. It's a real thing that is that old. Goes back to Jesus' time. But I believe the atoms within, the light within, was so swiftly expanded. It was like an atomic bomb, but it was not something that would harm anything. It just went up to the highest levels. So he had to ascend again, or be away from her for a while he could elevate himself back to that space, which he could then. And it's a part of the light moving up through us. It takes centuries after centuries after centuries, and we block it or we open it. We block it and we open it. We block it and open it till that day will come where it says every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess that he is Lord. We will go to that high space and unite with that God consciousness. And that's what he did. Then he had the ability to take all that light force that he was and bring it down to a lower vibration. It's just like water. You can turn it into steam. You don't see it. You know, it just kind of evaporates. That steam is still, that energy is still out there. But then you can take, as it comes back down, and if the steam would settle on something, you can take those droplets of water and you can freeze them. It becomes a solid thing. So to me, that's what happened. He could lower that vibration again, and he could come into the solid form of a man, Jesus. But notice what he did. Mary goes back and others and knocking on the door to where the disciples were and wanting in, and they were afraid to answer. They were afraid to open the door because the Romans were going to come and probably crucify them also. But no, they looked at him. It was, Jesus is here. Mary is trying to tell them that Jesus is here. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive. I've seen him. And they thought, oh, she's just hallucinating. That's an oversensitive woman for you, women. Yeah. Come on in, we'll comfort you. What begins to happen? He begins to show up. They had the doors locked and everything. There he was in their room. First time he came in, Thomas wasn't there. When they told him that they'd seen him, he said, no, I saw him die. I saw the soldier as he stuck his spear in his side, and the water and blood gushed out. I know he's dead. He said, I won't believe it until I can put my fingers in his hands where the nails were, or in his side. And there stood Jesus. Okay, Peter, you need proof? No, it's you, all right. It's you. I said, blessed are those that have not seen, but yet believe. People yet will go about, I do believe in the resurrection. I do. I believed it since I was a little girl, but I felt there was much, much, much more to it than him coming and shedding his blood for mankind. There's something more. My God, excuse me, this is my personal stuff. My God, and the God of Jesus, who I thought was my big brother, who taught me when I was little, that God would not murder anyone. That God gives us life, not death. We give death to each other and ourselves, when we're on these lower dimensions. But Jesus said, I came to give you life, and I came to give it abundant life to you. I came that you may be free from all things. Even the last enemy that you're going to be free from is death. Oh, come on, listen, that's not in the Bible either. Oh, yes, it is. I think it's in 1 Corinthians. Oh, gosh, what did I say? 15, 20 something, 24, 25, 26, somebody, maybe you know it. But the last enemy will be, we will overcome death itself. The tombs cannot hold us. The grave cannot hold us. And in that song that Dad's going to sing, the grave can't hold our King. And when I hear that song for years when I've heard it, it moves me inside. Because when I hear "Arise, my love," "Arise, my love," he's talking to us. God is calling us, each and every one of us, to rise. These vessels that are just tombs for the Spirit. It can't hold you when it's time to rise up and go higher. This whole pathway that we've been going on planet Earth has to do with freedom, has to do with coming to that place of being the same as Jesus. And all that I do, you can do also, in even greater things that you'll do while you are still going through the pathway to what? Mastership. Mastership. This is for all of us. When I began to open up Yogananda, has anybody ever seen The Second Coming of Christ, the book? The Resurrection by Yogananda? Have you ever read it? Anybody? You know, Yogananda is from a different philosophy, a different culture. Yeah. What he wrote about the second coming of Christ, the resurrection of Christ within you. Christ in you. The resurrection of that same Spirit that was in Jesus is the Spirit of the Christo, the Christ seed. We just happen to hear of it and connect it to Christianity or to Jesus. But that Christo, that spark of light, that divine spark that gives life to all things, the flowers, the trees, the birds, the animals, the grass, everything. It's in everything. Longing to come to its full expression. And it's just not this culture. Go back. And you know what they do? They don't stop at the cross. They don't stop at some other place. Their teaching is to become a master. The master. That's why they have gurus. Because these are people, I believe, that if they're real masters, they are ones that have overcome the things of this world. And they live in that place of peace and tranquility. When I was little, I wanted to meet some of the most spiritual people on the planet. And somehow, I don't know how it happened, but right now, when I was with the Dalai Lama, one of his monks said, "May I say something to you?" I said, "Yeah." "You are so well groomed." My friend said he's probably the one that checks out all the monks to make sure they look okay. Now, I'm not well groomed right now. But I thought of that this morning, so a Tibetan monk made this. And I had the honor of having it, and it was given to me. Any of you know about Sri Sri? Is it Sri? No, not Sri Sri. Bhagavan in India, the one that's blessed temple. For some strange reason, he asked me to come and meet with him. This is the scarf that he wore. Now, I don't know what the heck it's all about. Because my whole life seems like a crazy, crazy fairy tale sometimes. But it's real. It's real. And you're going to look back at some of the places, things that you've done, dreams you've had, and dreams that are being fulfilled. You're going to start dreaming like you've never dreamed before. You're going to start getting in touch with higher dimensions. You're going to start hearing things, seeing things in dreams or just when you're sitting around. Because we're moving into that energy, folks. And I don't want any of you to be frightened. I don't want you to be frightened. Because some of you that think you're a little off balance, it's not that at all. It's the awakening of your intuition, the ability to see and know, but it's time for the understanding to come also. And we're all here to share with one another. We're at the time that we will fear no evil. Because all the things that we've been taught are to keep us away from the true Spirit of God of who we are. Because this world is a world of materialism. Our ultimate goal has been to have money, have clothes, have whatever, or the best cars, and this, that, and the other. When you begin to step into that place of following your heart, you'll find that everything is going to come to you. You may not have everything that your natural mind would crave, but you're not going to go hungry. You're not going to be, things will work for you. And then, excuse me, thank you, got my little tap on my shoulder. When it seems like all hope is gone, and maybe you're in the bottom of the pit, you're in a prison within yourself, or in something else. You're in sickness, you're in disease. You're not walking it alone. It's something that you're clearing and cleansing. It's something that you have to know to overcome, to become the master. For if you'll look at Jesus' life, he had to come as a human person to get back to the creative force from which he came. He had to take every single step that you and I have walked. And that last incarnation was in that body of a man called Jesus. But that man called Jesus was much, much more than a man. Much, much more than a man. And I don't know if I have what's coming up for me, but I think it was in Fillmore's writings. Yeah. I did put it in my Bible. The person we may all be. The one we might be, by James Dillard Freeman. There was one who showed us what we all might be, what heights of fulfillment, what depths of compassion, what breadth of understanding might be ours if we were all that we might be. Ours to love with a love that exceeds none other, but gives itself to all. To have a sense of right values. To have a sense of right values. Placing spirituality things first in life. Yet using spiritual power to transform the physical world. That world within you and around you. Then to be master of yourself and superior to only your circumstances. To be humble in spirit, yet conscious of your eternal worth. To be at peace, yet to be a center of energy. And let your light shine. Let your light shine. Our function is to work together, because apart from each other, we cannot function at all. The whole power of God's Son lies in all of us, but not in any of us alone. Jesus knew that. That's why he came. That salvation is to save humanity itself. From what? Its own self. And what we have created is creators of the divine, and we are creators. We are gods of our own world. But who created the wars and all these things? Humankind has. Look what we could do right now if we had used atomic energy wanting to help mankind. We would have free energy. We would have all kinds of things. We would be sharing with one another. But mankind, when we discover something, the first thing we look at is how can I make money from it? How can I get rich from it? Who do I have to stab in the back to get it? Well, who do I even have to murder to get it? Have you not seen things like that? That time is coming to close. We're stepping into a whole new dimension, a whole new world. You will begin to see it in this next coming year and beyond. But what side are we going to take? I'm not saying to go against anybody. Stay in the middle of the road. You keep your heart and mind pure if you like. I'm not telling you what to do. It's your choice if you want to continue to reincarnate here or not. But we're on the timeline in this Aquarian age where the energy around us is coming up, that it will assist us in whichever path we choose to go. But if we stay in that middle line of letting others choose their path, as we just say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, they are satisfying that low energy, and that is perfectly okay. It's not for us to judge. We all grow in our own time, at our own pace. But you have the ability now that the higher dimensions are open, and the Christ within you can begin to be seen, to let your light shine in this generation and beyond. And if I don't make it this time, I'll be back, and I'll try it all over again until one day I will truly know I and the Father, I and the Creator are one, and all of you are also. And so it is. Namaste. Namaste. Dad, would you sing that song for us? I hope this has been a blessing to you. I just can't keep my mouth shut anymore. I see the light in all of y'all, and I want to see it shine. I want to see you being out doing the work that you came to do, and I know you will in this lifetime.